Today on Ag Etc., we start with Dr. Chris Blevins talking about equine dentistry. Next, we travel to Pokey Feeders to look at their innovations when it comes to water management. Next, we're at Stuckey Ranch, where Gordon Stuckey explains keeping the ultimate customer in mind, but not forgetting there are other customers ahead of them too. And we'll end with a reminder about beef safety. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Hello and welcome to Horsing Around. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about equine dentistry and some things that we do here at the Veterinary Health Center as far as examination of the equine teeth, mouth area. One of the new and exciting things that we have here at the vet school is a dental endoscope. And so what this piece of equipment is used for is a camera that we can put in the horse's mouth and actually video record and diagnostically see different angles within the mouth. Because as we know, the horse's mouth is very tunnel-like when we look inside the mouth, so this gives us different dimensions to see, and we're actually finding other things that maybe we haven't diagnosed in the past. When we use the dental endoscope, I also allow for the students to see on a TV screen. In addition, the owners can really see and be involved with the examination process too. So it's really been a great asset here at Kansas State Veterinary Health Center as far as diagnostically and educationally the tool that we use. There's been all kinds of other things that we've added to for equine dentistry, including some aspects of removing incisors with like dental drills and moving some of the bone away. We have some older horses that get resorptive lesions and bulge in those the teeth that are anchored in and hard to remove. So we use a drill now that we've used for equine incisor extractions if needed for that tooth resorptive lesions. In addition, we've had CAPS that has donated a thing to rinse out the mouth and rinse out pockets within the mouth, and that is an instrument that we have here. It's just on a tool, but it's about 80 psi, so it really flushes pockets or spaces that may be in between some of the teeth that we can't get with just a normal rinsing mouth applicator. So it allows us to get in there and squirt water in there and to remove some of those debris diagnostically and therapeutically for these horses. So it's been a really great thing for us to be able to use here at Kansas State. Some of the other things we do is standing oral extractions of some of the cheek teeth. And those things are something to evolve and use with here at Kansas State. And it's not like a new process that's been like just developed. It's something that we've been modifying even through educational purposes and things, continuing education that we've learned about horses' mouths. And we've now learned every horse is different, every mouth is different. And so examination, seeing what the horse needs to be able to use those teeth through their whole life is very important and something that we continue to build here at Kansas State Veterinary Health Center. And I think the other thing is to remember that we have other things that are going to be coming in the near future when it comes to teeth, horses' teeth. In addition, dental caries or cavities in horses' mouths. It's stuff that we're seeing a lot more with this scope. And so I think those things, again, are continuing going to be coming forward in the future. And if you have any questions about equine dentistry here at Veterinary Health Center or just about your own horse, give us a call here at the vet school anytime. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins at Kansas State Veterinary Health Center, and we'll see you around.
Sandstrew, veterinarian in Western Iowa. I have a veterinary clinic and started doing stem cell therapy on dogs in August of 2014. And after the first 2 dogs, after 3 weeks, I saw such dramatic results. I said, hey, I have arthritis. I have joints that really need this help. Where can I go to get this done? I had stem cell therapy done in November of 2014 on my finger joints, my hip, and the ball of my left foot, all of which I'd had real severe problems with. Saw a pretty dramatic improvement in a short amount of time. I would certainly recommend that somebody don't wait until I'm in the position that I was in with the damage already done to my joints. I encourage veterinarians to use it for their animals, and I encourage anybody who sees this video, if you have need, get in contact with these people because this is a phenomenal place to have this done.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
My name is Grant Morgan. I'm with Pokey Feeders in Scott City, Kansas. We are currently a 75,000 head commercial feed yard. 95% of the cattle here would be owned by somebody else. Most of the cattle here would come from about 17 to 22, 23 different states. And today I'm here to talk to you about our water recycling system that we've been putting in on a 4-year plan. We started in 2014. Basically what we're trying to capture is all of our overflow water. Most feed yards in our state predominantly are continuous flow water tanks, specifically in our area. So continuous flow water tank, what that means, when the temperature in the water gets to a certain temperature, basically freezing level, our tanks run a pickock valve that'll turn on and automatically allow water to continually flowing, not off of our float how they're typically adjusted. So in the wintertime, our water, when it gets to freezing level, our tanks will continually flow and will allow the water not to freeze. And so that water eventually ends up in our lagoons, which we capture that water and eventually pump it onto pivots, irrigation pivots, and growing crops. Typically we grow cane silage, some triticale that we graze and chop in the fall and spring as well. We currently have approximately about 600 pins and about 550 water tanks. Most of our tanks are 75, 80 gallon water tanks and have a 3-inch standpipe in the center of those tanks that allow the water, if the tank is overflowing, to flow through that drain pipe and through our drain line that eventually makes it into our lagoon. Or when we're washing water tanks once a week, that standpipe can be pulled out and the tanks can be cleaned. So typically, on a given day, we'll have several tank plugs, is what we refer to them as, that are missing or pulled out of the tank by cattle being curious animals. So what I'll show you right now is this is what we call our south section of the feed yard. And our south section is based on 20,000 head. It's the 3rd system we put in. It was actually just completed in about 2 weeks ago. So basically all of our feed alleys run north and south. So our water lines and our drain lines go north and south as well. Both of them are about 2 feet apart going through our pin. And so the water line goes into the tank, the drain line comes out of the tank. So all of our drain lines here drain all to the south side of this section of the yard and basically go into this ditch, which in turn funnels into this lagoon here. And so with our water recycling system, what we do is we lay an 8-inch line surveyed out so all of the water will naturally flow back to this point right here. It's an 8-inch line that looks like a horseshoe that goes around this section of the yard and comes back to right here, so it captures all of our drain water. I'll take you over to the system itself now. So where we're at right now is what we call our collection tank. Our collection tank is actually 17 feet deep and about 8 foot by 8 foot. And so basically there's 2 pumps inside of this tank itself. There's a pump that will send the water into our recycling building where the water is actually recycled. And then there's a trash pump, so when we want to clean this tank, we have valves that are set to put fresh water in the tank so we can clean it when we see fit. But basically the water comes into here, and as you can probably hear, there's water running today because there's probably a tank running over. The water will come into this pit. There's a sensor in this pit that when the water gets to a certain level, our system will kick on. There's also a freeboard level in here. If the power goes out and the trash pump doesn't kick on, water will automatically go back into the lagoon. And so it goes in this pit, it'll fill up to a certain level, the system will kick on, and it will start the recycling process.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
This segment brought to you by SureCrop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We've talked about already of how we actually capture the water, and at this point I'll show you how we actually recycle it and put it back into our loop system for the cattle to drink. When the water gets at a certain level in the concrete tank, our pump will kick on out there, and the water will be sent through one of these two media sand filters. There's silica sand that's up to about this level in the tank. The water will be forced through there, goes through the sand media filter. At that point, it goes into what we call our clean water tank. When the clean water tank gets to a certain level, which is about to right here, there's a sensor on it as well. That will turn this pump on here. This pump will pull the water out of that tank. It'll run it through the UV light, and then at that point, we're back into our loop system here. Our entire feed yard is tied in with, all tied together, all 17 wells we utilize are tied in what we call a loop system. So this is actually set up on a pressure switch, so the pressure in the yard does not dictate when this water kicks on or off. If we're having wells run and they're almost at their limit, when the pressure is high enough, it'll shut those wells off. It'll still pull this water first, and it'll shut wells off at that point if it needs to. Currently, like we discussed, this is our third unit. We started in 2014, put it on our west side of the yard. Last year we finished one on our east side of the yard, and now at the south section of the yard, which captures about 82% of the water or cattle pens that we have here. Next year in 2017, we plan on capturing the oldest part of the yard is our middle section. It's the toughest for us to capture, but we're planning on tackling that next year. So we should have 100% of the yard recycled at that point. Some statistics. So in 2016, so far, utilizing 2 units, our west section and east section, which make up 55% that have ran so far to August 30th, is right at 8.6 million gallons we've recycled this year. In 2015, we only had one full system on, which is 23% of the yard, and the other system on for about 4 months. But in that year alone, we averaged 5,000 head of cattle more on feed. We had an addition in that year as well. And we recycled 1.3 million gallons less water than what we used the year before, having 5,000 more cattle on feed. So what that equates back to, our 5-year average has been 10.3 gallons per head per day. We used in 2015, we used 9.6. So it equates back to 8% less water used and only capturing really 23% of the yard recycled for the full year and 55% captured for 4 months. So this year, we're hoping to kind of round out, you know, a little over 10 to 12 million this year is what our estimation is. We're recycling our west and east units In 2016, just a shade over 37,000 gallons per day average. So this year we're hoping to capture, between, I'd say 12 million, around 12 million total for the year. And next year, with all 3 units going, and part of the year with the full yard, we're hoping to get in the 25 million gallon range that we'll recycle.
Tarwater Farm and Home has been family owned and operated since its beginning in 1978. What you need for farm and agriculture, lawn and garden, clothing and footwear, and so much more. You'll be surprised at what you'll find in this huge store. They have what you need and lots of it. So come take a look. You'll discover that customer service is first and foremost. Always has been with the Tarwaters. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Raising above average cattle does not mean you have to give up anything. The consumer is the ultimate customer, but there are other customers ahead of them in the chain.
It's much more than just the final quality product that the consumer gets. When we talk about our ranch customers, you have to be very concerned about, for example, the disposition of the cattle, that the cattle are easy for them to handle, that they're a type of cattle that they really appreciate and can work with. On the maternal side, you especially want cows with longevity and really nice udder quality and things that make a cow what the very best that they can be in the ranching environment.
But keeping that end consumer in mind, the Stuckey family wanted to share their story with people from other walks of life. They found a simple answer: just open the gate to visitors.
And that's what's been so fun about hosting folks, to come to the ranch, and so they can see some of the things that we do that from 30,000 feet flying over Kansas, you'd never think about. But we kind of want to bring them in touch with reality. So many different takes on what their perception was when they got off the bus, and then the feeling that we've hopefully filled them with, and when they get back on the bus.
Some questions are philosophical, some technical, and others just come up. They all help the family stay focused and intentional.
We'll brainstorm them with whatever they want to talk about. If they want to dive into genetics and how we formulate the breeding program, we'll talk that way. Or if they want to talk about what's the life of a year with a cow like, why we'll discuss that. Kind of everything we do is almost under the microscope. Whether they're here that day or not, we've always kind of got that in the back of our minds of how we care for things and how we do things here on a daily basis. It makes a difference.
The Stuckeys ride for the brand, theirs and certified Angus beef, as do the beef marketers and chefs who come to visit.
They want to know the product, and they want to know the story of the product and how good the cattle are. But yet at the same time, they want to know Jesse Stuckey, and they want to know the name of the horse that Jesse Stuckey gets on and rides. And I think that hopefully helps spark their continued interest in the program, their continued desire to ride for the brand. And we always tell them this is a two-way street, because we need them as much as they need us.
Few cattlemen explain how it all fits together better than Gordon Stuckey, as he extends that riding metaphor to bull customers and CAB staff.
Sure, they ride for our brand because their bulls all have the Circle S bar brand on them. But yet, those customers are all kind of riding for the CAB brand as well. So, that's the chain that's going on out here. We're going to make better product, and we have to work at this together, and you guys have to continue to let that consumer know that it's there, and they'll spend a few more pennies for it, and they'll be happy, and we'll make that circle complete.
Stuckey Ranch received the 2017 Certified Angus Beef Ambassador Award at the brand's annual conference this fall. I'm Clint Mefford.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways. Of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
Mark your calendars now for the 2018 Topeka Farm Show, January 9th, 10th, and 11th at the Kansas Expo Center. 253 exhibitors, 612 booths, and other attractions like free horse training clinics with Scott Daly, the Kansas Soybean Expo, and free well water nitrate testing. Enjoy free parking, admission, and a chance to win grand prizes courtesy of Midland Seed and Hoyt Truck Center. All this and more at the Topeka Farm Show, January 9th through the 11th at the Kansas Expo Center.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The meat industry is doing a great job of keeping things as safe as possible. They're working very hard to make sure that, the products that consumers are buying is, as safe as possible.
The beef in the United States is safe, regardless whether we're talking about conventionally raised product, whether we're talking about organic or natural. All beef is safe because it's all inspected by the USDA. All of the standards that go into effect for traditional, conventionally raised product are also applied to any other form of production system as well. Before the hide's removed, they do everything they can to remove through a hot water bath as much of the contamination on the outside of the hide as possible. Throughout the entire process, once the hide is removed, the carcasses go through another hot water bath cabinet in which they spray 180-degree water on the outside of the carcass in order to hopefully kill as many bacteria that may potentially be contaminated on there as possible. And then all the way through to the processing side, many times before that carcass is ever fabricated, or even when the subprimal meat goes into packages or ground product does, it's typically sprayed with some other form of antibacterial, whether we're talking about citric acid or lactic acid. So another hurdle, if you will, in the process to prevent any form of contamination from making it all the way to the consumer.
Potentially ground beef could have some microbial contaminants. Animals are grown in an environment where there's potential contaminants. They're grown outside, and so those contaminants can potentially get into the meat eventually. There can be things like salmonella, there could be E. coli, there could be Campylobacter, other microbial contaminants that are quite common in our food, that can happen in our food supply.
If we look at intact steak products or roast products, the inside of that muscle, where it's never been exposed to the outer air surface, is sterile. That's why we can safely cook and prepare steak and roast meats to a rare degree of doneness, because the inside of that meat was never contaminated or never even had the potential to be contaminated with any form of pathogenic bacteria. Ground beef product, on the other hand, is something that's highly a concern because the outside of that product, what was once the outside, is ground up into what is now the inside of the product. Because of that, the outside is no safer than the inside, and so we have to make sure that we prepare those products accordingly because of that.
Any ground beef, pork, lamb, those should be cooked to 160 degrees. That temperature is safe to make sure that we know that you're killing off any bacteria that could be present. Definitely always use a thermometer to make sure that the temperature is correct. Unfortunately, color is not a really good indicator, in particular for ground meats, of if it's done or not. I tell people microorganisms don't care what color the meat is, they only care what temperature it's been cooked to. So make sure that temperature is getting up to 160 degrees for ground meats. If it's ground turkey or ground chicken or any whole chicken or turkey products, you want to cook that to 165 degrees because there's certain microorganisms that tend to be more possible to be in those meats that you want to make sure you're getting to a higher temperature. If you're cooking a roast or a steak, intact products that haven't been needle tenderized, those only need to be cooked to 145 degrees.
From where contamination can occur, it can occur at any point in time from the time that animal's harvested all the way up until the time it goes onto the plate. A lot of time consumers don't take a lot of responsibility for mishandling raw meat products in their own home. But if they undercook the product, or one of the biggest things is cross-contamination, using some of the same utensils or plates that they use with the raw product on cooked product, that's the #1 location for cross-contamination that does result in foodborne illness.
You know, any sort of food product that you're eating could potentially have contaminants in it. That's why it's so important that, the whole way from the farm all the way to the consumer, that we're doing things as safely as possible, that we're making sure that we're all using safe handling practices.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.